Hi, and welcome to this episode of Tet Talks. Today we have Oscar Sibanda. So again, we are within the family, the Tetrad family. We are going to be discussing DevOps, especially AWS and its integrations with Salesforce. So we're really looking forward to chatting with you, Oscar. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Lusanda. I'm really excited to be on this episode of Tet Talk.
Awesome. So what we often like to do is just set a foundation and make sure that we scratch out any confusion right from the beginning. We know that there may be non-techs that are listening to this podcast, and we want to make sure that they understand all the terminology that we use throughout. So as a foundation, please could you explain what is AWS or Amazon Web Services?
Yeah, sure. So AWS is a global platform that provides cloud computing services that enables organizations to run their workloads securely at a lower cost and with the ability to scale on demand and to run those workloads in a secure environment. So in the past, IT companies and general companies with their IT departments, they used to have their own servers and have their own data centers. And the restriction with that is that you have to spend a lot of money to acquire those servers, configure them for your workloads, secure them, and maintain them as well. So with AWS, all those requirements are abstracted from you, where Amazon runs those features for you. So you're then able to run at a low cost and without fear of downtime and having to worry about maintaining those servers and the data centers.
Excellent. So once again, you're taking your on-premise solution, something that required a whole lot of capital expenditure and maintenance, and sticking that in the cloud, right?
That is correct. So it was capital intensive and also operational expenses that came along with maintaining those servers. So you needed the expertise, the right people to maintain the servers, and you needed the talent. You needed to make sure that they're operational 24/7. Any downtime needed to be mitigated. You know, with the situation with power outages here in this country, you would also need uninterrupted power supply. So all those things, you don't have to worry about them when you're running a workload in AWS.
Awesome. Definitely sounds like a solution that's very relevant to the times that we're living in. We are later on in the podcast going to discuss DevOps, but maybe also just to get an idea, we did speak about it in the theme. What exactly is DevOps?
Okay, so DevOps is a combination of philosophies, practices, and tools that increases an organization's ability to deliver applications and services in a speedy fashion. So the way I like to think about it is from a holistic view. So I look at it from the developers writing the code. So from that step, we implement quality gates that ensure that the code follows convention that is set out, that the code doesn't have any syntax issues, doesn't have any logical issues within it that can be picked up through static code analysis. And then when that code is then deployed, or the code is built and deployed to different environments, that is automated, right? And we get feedback from that. So being able to see that a build was run successfully, that a deployment was run successfully to an organization, any errors are then alerted back to the team. And once that application code has been built and deployed, then it's now running in a live environment. And what you need to do is continually monitor that live environment for any changes that might have been affected by your code. So getting any issues that are arising from those code changes and any issues that users are experiencing. So DevOps is encompassing all those different stages of software development lifecycle, and making sure that we have insights into the changes that we're bringing to our production environments and being able to deliver software quickly.
Okay, so what's the relationship between DevOps and the different applications that you might have running?
So the relationship would be, if an application is live and is running, then you're monitoring that application. So you can think of from an API perspective, you're monitoring what are the requests that are failing in a production environment, for instance. What are the error messages, being able to collate that into a report, And also from the building of the application software itself, you'd be able to create a traceability matrix to say this code commit went to this build, went to this deployment, and that's what's causing this error. So having that end-to-end view allows you to investigate any issues that you might have within your application, and also to monitor the performance of your application as you continually improve it.
Awesome, thank you. And I imagine that would allow you to be proactive in terms of knowing when something has gone wrong, instead of having to wait for example, a client to tell you that such and such has stopped working.
That is correct. So with one of our clients, what we were able to do was to see what the impact on the latency of requests was for our APIs. And having seen that, we were able to know in advance that if we continue down this path, the latency will continually increase and we'll have a performance degradation for our end users. So what we did then was to look at that and find areas where we can provide operational efficiency. And thus, at the end of the day, we mitigated an issue that would have been a bad user experience.
Awesome, really, really cool. So as we can tell, we're speaking to an AWS expert, but you're also very proficient with Salesforce. So what does the relationship between those two look like?
So historically, these two companies have always had multiple partnerships and collaborations. So for instance, Heroku, Salesforce's platform as a service, is an abstraction of AWS's Elastic Cloud Compute. So what that allows you to do is to spin up servers within Heroku, but those servers are actually running within AWS. And if you look at the AWS partner portal, that is actually built out from Salesforce community. And even if you go to Trailheads within Salesforce, there's courses for AWS. So there are a lot of instances where these two organizations are closely related.
Yeah, that's clear then. If Salesforce is training you on AWS, then clearly there is a very strong relationship between them internationally. So what makes this relationship advantageous for a customer?
So if you look at it, there was a recent announcement from both AWS and Salesforce that they've continued to expand on their partnership. And what this announcement detailed was that there's now native integrations between the two platforms. So that means that clients are able to natively connect real-time data and events and securely move that data between Salesforce and AWS. Additionally, they can virtualize data from AWS services like Amazon RDS, which is the database, and Amazon S3, which is file storage. And that data can now be viewed as Salesforce objects. And that requirement has low code development.
Awesome. So what I appreciate about what you just said is the fact that it's a native integration. I know in some environments you get people trying to sort of create patches and create integrations between two products to fit their environment. But because it's not something that's native and has been developed by either team or either applications such as a Salesforce and an AWS, those kinds of integrations can be really shady and unstable. So it looks really good that they're developing this and it's a native offering that they will then maintain.
Yes, so to expand on that, by having that native integration, there's actually a direct link between the AWS service and Salesforce. So with that direct link comes security and reduced latency. And what that means is it's a very performant solution that you could not be able to implement on your own. So that partnership really brings fruit, is really fruitful for our clients.
Awesome, really, really cool. Are there any use cases? I mean, we as South Africa, for example, are going through changes in terms of privacy, and you have sort of alerted me to the fact that actually AWS and a Salesforce partnership could assist companies in making that transition.
So that is correct. There's new POPIA requirements that are coming into effect shortly. And with an organization that has both Salesforce and AWS, what that allows you to do is to offload data from Salesforce into AWS to manage the archiving of those records, the de-identification of that data, creating deletion policies so that after 5 years, a record can be deleted, and also implementing governance controls on that data. So effectively managing the security and the encryption of that data from transit and until the data is at rest. Another good example for those integrations would be Amazon Connect, which is the telephony solution that can integrate into Salesforce. This allows passing data from Salesforce to Amazon and making use of, for instance, a machine learning service from Amazon called SageMaker. You can now get useful, insightful data, information from your data, and then be able to make actionable insights from that data.
Both very, very good and insightful use cases. I mean, as of the 1st of July, the POPI Act is in effect. And I've already gotten emails from a number of sources about, we have your information. Are we still allowed to use it? And I'm sure that organizations are really worried about making sure that they do not comply with the law that is coming into effect. So I can really see how that sort of integration would be very strong and very useful to businesses. So thanks for mentioning that as a use case. So there's been a lot of talk of DevOps or about DevOps in the AWS space. How is Tetrad as a company currently making use of this?
So fundamentally, when we roll out projects, we emphasize what is called the well-architected solution framework that is provided by AWS. And there are 2 pillars within that framework that touch on DevOps. These are operational excellence and reliability. So whenever we develop a solution for our clients, we need to make sure that we put this forward within a good DevOps framework. Thus, we engage with our clients to go through the existing software stack and incorporate AWS services that enable us to have a robust framework. So for example, a client might have their own source code management platform that they prefer. And in such an instance, we would not make use of the AWS service. And we would integrate the two so that the code can reside in one place, and then the building of those artifacts can happen within the AWS stack. Another example is that gives us that flexibility would be if a client has a Jenkins instance that they run themselves that carries out their continuous integration and their continuous deployment, then we can integrate AWS Cold Build as a deployment agent for Jenkins.
Okay, so clients shouldn't worry that if they come to you looking for a solution, they'll be forced into doing things a certain way. You are willing to look at how to design their system in such a way that still integrates what they have from their previous system. Is that correct?
That is correct. So there is that flexibility to mix and match services, or if one prefers, we can run absolutely on the AWS stack. There are all the sufficient services required to implement a very good DevOps framework.
Awesome, very good to know. Now, at the beginning, we chatted about the international framework in terms of how Salesforce and AWS have this strong collaboration that has existed or exists currently very strongly. But what other key business challenges do South African businesses face that AWS caters for?
Okay, so I think at the beginning of the pandemic, there was a race for organizations to digitize their business and to enable their employees to work remotely and simultaneously provide a more digitized experience for their clients. So AWS as a platform is capable of enabling organizations to meet these times. And also with the digital age, we find that a lot of organizations are moving towards being data-centric, right? And harnessing the data, harvesting data from your organization is not sufficient. You also need to be able to have analytics and forecasting on top of it. So AWS provides services for machine learning and analytics that can help organizations make actionable insights that meets their strategy. Lastly, with AWS, you pay for what you use. So that means that smaller organizations with smaller budgets are then able to invest in the cloud and harvest the power of the cloud without having to make a large outlay of financial investment.
Excellent. I think that scalability would be really important in the South African market, just understanding that, as you say, you get what you pay for. So if you would like to just have an entry-level solution, you know that there are things in your business that, as you say, you'd want to get better analytics out of in order for you to improve your decision making. You don't have to think, wow, I can't afford this amazing solution that AWS offers. It's really cool that that is scalable. So it makes sense then that in the South African market, that growth is expected in this industry. So how would we get the upcoming generation, our millennials, involved in this growth?
I think ideally it has to start at an education level. If our universities could incorporate foundational cloud services into their curriculum, that would enable students to know what is in demand within the market. And as the market grows and more organizations move to cloud, then they can readily fit into an organization with the requirements that are there. I think here at Tetrad IT, we do promote a culture of continuous learning through certifications and hosting hackathons internally. So we enable our employees to get knowledge through these processes and also have fun at the same time, whilst increasing their knowledge of the AWS platform. And then lastly, we also need to raise awareness of platforms that exist from AWS that have a wealth of knowledge for AWS, for the platform itself. There is AWS Restart, which prepares unemployed and underemployed individuals for their career in the cloud. Another great resource would be the free AWS Machine Learning University. This enables people to learn machine learning, which is a skill that is continually in high demand, and to do it at a free cost. And then lastly, there's the Amazon Partner Network. So this has an entire library with thousands of documents, virtual classes, and courses to help an individual upskill within AWS.
Awesome. So it's really good to know that all those education opportunities are out there. But I appreciate the fact that you mentioned that, yes, would love this to be available in universities, but until such a time, businesses can still make sure that within their business, there are those opportunities for continuous learning and upskilling. And as we know, Tetrad IT is an environment in which that is something that's definitely encouraged, which makes it really cool to be here.
That is correct.
Yeah. So Oscar, if somebody wants to know more about how they can upskill, how they can sort of take advantage of or get to know about this AWS platform, where can they go for information?
So we have provided multiple links in the description of this chat.
Awesome. Excellent. Thank you very much. Now, as a tech enthusiast, we have definitely heard from this conversation that you are a techie. What is it about AWS that you so love? I mean, I was really fascinated by the fact that, you know, as Tetrad, you came to Tetrad with this idea of us upskilling in AWS, and that you've really spearheaded the whole thing, and not only for yourself, but also to encourage others to get onto the platform. Why AWS?
So for me, I think one of the things that I love about AWS would have to be the ability to have granular control, where you can spin up a compute instance and specify right down to the processor what you would like to work with. Or alternatively, you can lean on the managed services from AWS that abstracts you from those kinds of concerns. So you can just focus on your application itself. And then the infrastructure around your application will be handled by AWS. And even within these managed services, there is a breakdown of the level of management that AWS will do for you. So for instance, you can make use of Elastic Beanstalk to manage some of your scaling, your upscaling, your downscaling, the availability of your application and so forth. Or you can go a step further and go serverless, and you don't have to worry about anything with regards to the infrastructure itself. AWS will take care of all of that, and all you do is deploy your code.
Awesome.
And secondly, there is a plethora of services that are offered, and there's a continual addition to this service stack. So there are multiple service classes. A good example would be for a non-relational database, you can make use of DynamoDB. You can make use of AWS key spaces or document DB. So all those multiple options provide you with the ability and the flexibility to either stay within the AWS stack, or you can actually expand out of it with something like key spaces, where you can create your own instances of the same cluster, even away from AWS, but it will all still work as one complete product.
Okay.
And then lastly,
Mm-hmm.
Another great thing would have to be the free tier for services. So there's a threshold for some services where you can use them for free for a year. For instance, you get 750 hours of free compute time for 12 months for EC2. This means that you can have your own server running within AWS for free for a whole year. And that allows you to experiment, play around, have fun, and build some applications at no cost.
That's excellent. Who doesn't love freebies? I love free bread at restaurants, and that's no longer possible. So I really appreciate finding out what else I can get for free. So really awesome opportunities. Lastly, I'm going to throw you in the deep end with this question, but as I mentioned, you really have spearheaded AWS and upskilling within the organization. My question to you is, what do you think is the importance of upskilling and staying relevant in your job? Could you not have just been comfortable to use whatever platforms were used at the company you were at? Do you have advice for people in terms of staying relevant in their jobs, especially if they are in tech jobs?
So IT is a very ever-evolving landscape, and you can't reach a state of comfort. And as an organization, we do a lot of scanning of the market, scanning of the environment to see where opportunities lie, where risks also lie, and just continuing to make sure that we meet and we address those opportunities, we exploit them, and with the risks, we mitigate them. So as a result, for me personally, I do a lot of reading. So that's reading blogs, reading articles, just a lot of reading within the IT space, just so that I can keep abreast with the new frameworks that are coming about, the new platforms that exist, software and so forth. So that would be my advice for people to always read up on such things that they are interested in. And for an organization, it would be to continually scan the environment to make sure that you adapt to the changes that are coming in within the environment, and you're also ready to exploit opportunities that present themselves.
Excellent. I mean, the saying goes, the only thing that's constant is change. So making sure that we are adaptable, and as you say, that we can not only mitigate risks, but also be proactive, is excellent advice. So thank you so much for that. Great. So thank you so much for being with us today and giving us a technical ride through DevOps and understanding AWS and Salesforce. And we really hope that the listeners will benefit from what you said.
Thanks, Lusanda, for having me. I look forward to doing my next episode.